Hello and welcome to Performance Anxiety. We analyse the film, television, theatre and comedy performances that everybody is talking about. I'm Alex Dale, and with me is my resident film expert,
Dr. Maren Thom.
On this episode, the Marks and Spencer's 2023 Christmas advert. Oh yeah. Written by the Mother Advertising Agency, directed by Ali Pankiw, starring Hannah Waddingham, Zawe Ashton, Tan France, and Sophie Ellis-Bextor. How you doing?
I'm very well. A bit rainy outside, isn't it? November.
Oof. Are you looking forward to talking about Christmas?
Very much so. Christmas is in the air. Christmas ads are here.
Holidays are coming. Right. Big picture here. Why on earth are we talking about a Christmas advert? There's a lot of things we need to cover, I think, to explain what's going on. I think the first question should probably be just generally, what's the deal with Christmas adverts?
Yes.
Where are they from? Why, what's going on with them?
I think that's a very good question, because I think Christmas adverts are far more an Anglo-American thing than, I don't know, a German thing or a European thing. Mm-hmm. Our adverts at Christmas are Christmassy, but they're not the Christmas advert. That's a kind of phenomenon I've only encountered here.
So it's kind of what they would call appointment television. So in America, they would be typically the Super Bowl adverts, the adverts that you tune in to watch because they're going to be interesting or special. And in this country, yes, in the UK where we're based, they tend to be the Christmas adverts. They tend to be bigger, better, higher budget stars. What are the genre rules of Christmas adverts?
So the Christmas advert is a little movie almost, that has a high budget, produced by the companies that want to bring their brand into the mind of people around Christmas, telling them how much their brand relates to their Christmas experience.
That's one of the things that's interesting about this example, which we should probably stress, is that this is the first thing that we're talking about that's written by an advertising agency and not a writer, Hollywood writer or a screenwriter. It's written with commercial intent in mind.
Yes. So these adverts are only indirectly about the product. They're usually heartwarming stories around Christmas, usually involving an animal or a child. Yeah, like a little Christmas movie, and bringing the company into the storyline somehow in enhancing this Christmas experience.
Yes.
So to just bring people into the Christmas spirit and reminding them how much the company or the product is part of this Christmas experience.
So in this country, these kind of big splash festive adverts really took hold in 2011. And John Lewis, which is a department store, very like Marks and Spencer's, slightly more high-end perhaps, really put these things on the map and pioneered these things. According to one article here, John Lewis holds the gold standard for the Christmas TV adverts. That's a dubious honour, I think. But they've been doing them since 2009 with the advertising agency Adam and Eve, DDB. The description here says, the adverts traditionally play with emotions and feature a big hit song. These are some of the other genre rules that we've come to love. Frequently being a cover of an 80s or 90s hit performed by an up-and-coming talent. So sometimes they can be kind of oola palala, ghostly girls singing,
Cover versions.
Yeah.
Or they are really poppy remakes of party songs, Christmas party songs. Also songs that are connected with nostalgia for the 80s, nostalgia for the 70s.
There's definitely a generational aspect to it as well, and generational expectations, presumably aimed at who has the wallet and the purse strings, because they're trying to get people to buy things. Now, Marks and Spencer's is a particularly English phenomenon, which might not mean much outside the UK. As somebody from Germany, how would you explain Marks and Spencer's? First of all, what is it in a kind of very banal sense? But then more generally, what does it mean?
So Marks and Spencer's is a British department store with different sections. You get your clothes there, you get your home furniture there, but you also get like high quality food products there, especially ready-made food. And it's considered good quality. So it's aspirational, it's good quality,
Yes.
and it's not beyond anybody's means
Yes.
totally.
It's not the most high-end store in the world, but it's not crass, it's not cheap, it's good quality.
Yeah, I think this is the idea of good quality
Yeah.
and taste is what people connect with Marks and
Yes.
Spencer. Britishness in the sense of, you get good British stuff.
You can't go wrong with Marks and Spencer's,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So Marks and Spencer has this kind of meaning within the nation
Yeah.
as the kind of barometer of aspirational, good taste, Britishness, high quality experience.
Nicely put. Now then, Marks and Spencer's, like all of these very big department stores, big stores in general, have spent a huge amount of money producing their Christmas advert, which has caused something of a backlash. We'll get onto the backlash later. But it's worth looking at and examining the advert itself. Here's how Marks and Spencer's explain the thinking behind their advert. What they've said is that they are celebrating the honest truth of Christmas. The campaign is inspired by the insight that for many, it can be a challenge striking the balance between celebrating the things we love about the holidays and taking on some things we might not enjoy as much but feel obliged to do anyway. That is their rationale and their reasoning. They also say on their website that they've spoken to hundreds of people about what they like and don't like about Christmas as part of this establishing what feels like a duty or a chore, perhaps, or less popular. On Twitter, they've said, this year's ad is about recognizing that we all have different Christmases and reminding people that it doesn't matter how you celebrate, just do what makes you happy.
And you can see how much they want this to be universal and well-meaning and want to appeal to people and giving them the freedom to enjoy Christmas the way they want to and not feel obliged. Especially women who, let's be honest, actually do the most work at Christmas.
Yes.
And they are actually burdened with a lot of the Christmas duties.
All right, so we've established what Marks and Spencer's are trying to achieve, on paper at least. And to do this, they've pressed into service 4 relatively big names, depending on where you're from. But 4 very noticeable figures, very carefully chosen. And I think it's worth investigating what these performers mean, why we imagine they've been chosen, what role are they fulfilling in this performance, this advert. We have Hannah Waddingham, who was already relatively famous before this advert, really broke through this year by presenting the Eurovision Song Contest in this country, which made her an overnight national treasure, according to The Guardian. You can see the benchmarks that they're using there. How would you describe her persona and her symbolic value in this? What does she mean in this performance?
Yeah, I think internationally people will know her from Ted Lasso, the
Yes.
Apple TV series. But what she represents is a kind of aspirational working classness, somebody who is not crass like the Kardashians. She is stylish, but not in a kind of esoteric or sort of aristocratic way. She is friendly and approachable. She is not vulgar, but she's still working class material.
Yeah, it's very interesting how she manages to do that. I'm not quite sure how she does it, but that's definitely it. She's in, for example, The Hustle, in a very bit part, playing a kind of working class harpy almost. So she definitely has the ability to kind of convey working classness, but also stylishness and accessibility somehow. Next on the list here is Tan France. What do you know about Tan France? How would you describe him?
So Tan France, people know mostly from being one of the presenters of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy on Netflix. The new
Hugely
series.
successful. Yeah.
Hugely successful. It's an American show. But he's also from Doncaster. So in British northern town, so
Yes.
he has this kind of down-to-earthness about him. He is gay, he's from his Pakistani family, so he has this aura of boy done good. He
Yes.
has a successful company, but he's still, a northern lad at heart, so to speak. And so what he brings with it is a kind of class, the aspirational class of the working class.
Yes.
There's something about British working class and their aspirational style, the idea of mods,
Yeah.
wearing suits,
Yeah.
being good looking.
Yeah.
wearing good quality clothes.
Yes.
So for him to be a spokesperson for Marks and Spencer's makes absolute sense.
It connects to a lot of...
It connects to a lot of things, yeah.
Now, next on the list here is Zoe Ashton.
Probably the least known to people outside Britain.
I think so, yes. So she's quite famous in this country, in the UK, for being in Fresh Meat, which was a very good comedy drama about students from a few years ago.
So she is her persona in that TV series, and people will know her from this persona. And she plays this kind of neo-punk, a bit cheeky, bit direct, but always well-meaning. You know, punk with a heart of gold.
Yes, she's like an anarchist kind of thing.
Yeah, but a sweet anarchist.
Yes.
Always very understanding and forgiving. Will admit that she has made mistakes.
Yeah, a bit spiky.
Bit spiky and very direct. And she tells it like it is.
Yes. She is also, pertinently for this argument, now engaged to Tom Hiddleston. So she is now Hollywood royalty adjacent.
Well, yeah.
It adds something, right? Last on our list here is Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Perhaps another, outside the UK, relatively less known or less familiar face. What do you think she represents here?
Yeah, you're right. Outside the UK, people will probably just know her from her one hit, you know, Murder on the Dance Floor.
From early 2000s.
Quite a long time ago now. But she also represents a kind of upper class style. But I think she represents more in Britain, doesn't she?
I think so, yeah. She's definitely coded, to use a horrible word. She definitely represents posh more than the others.
Yeah.
She has double-barreled surname. She has this cut glass voice. She is also, if you're not familiar with this outside the country, descended from television royalty in this country. So she's the daughter of Janet Ellis, who used to present Blue Peter, which is an absolute bastion of English culture. It's a kids' show. It's on BBC television. It's been established since the year dot. And being connected to this makes you embedded in the English culture and English psyche. So she's almost like a product of British television somehow. She's very much a symbol of established British norms almost.
Yeah, so what they all have in common is that they represent the ideal people who shop at Marks and Spencer's, or you want to see at Marks and Spencer's. They're not aristocracy. They're not upper class. They are people who know good quality and can agree upon it, and they are not vulgar.
Oh, you would like them if you met them in the pub. You'd hang out with them. They're also, I think, domestic. They're all married, I think. They all have kids. They're all kind of Gen X or Gen X adjacent. So you can see how carefully chosen they are to represent different things.
Yeah, so it's the absolute, you know, if you're a mum, you love them.
Yes.
A British mum, yeah.
Well, I think also if you're a dad,
Yeah.
you know, you'd probably identify with what they're supposed to be, the archetypes they're supposed to be fulfilling.
Yes. So Marks and Spencer has chosen their cast for this advert very, very carefully. For people to say, yeah, this is what I want at Christmas. These people represent me and my desires.
All right, so we've established the cast of characters. What's the story that's being shown in this advert? What's the plot and how is it represented?
So the advertising agency who produced this advert really clearly had this goal. We want to show the reality of Christmas. It sounds okay for now. So what they did, they asked a lot of people about what they liked about Christmas and what they didn't like about Christmas. And there are lots of real life examples that are now in this advert. You can now see in the advert these 4 characters doing things that they like about Christmas and that they don't like about Christmas. So we see Hannah Waddingham coming in from a party, which she obviously enjoyed.
In a party frock.
In a party frock. But then she sees a half-finished snowman that she probably has to do for her kids, I don't know, nativity play, I don't know, whatever. But so she has this chore of finishing this snowman with a glue gun and some cotton wool.
Yeah.
And you can see her sighing. And then you see Tan, and he wants to put up a very decorative Christmas decoration, a very stylish one, but he's also got the one from his little kid, you know, like a toilet roll angel.
We would hope it's a kid's piece of art.
Yeah, or maybe he did it. But he, obviously this has sentimental value to him, and then he puts up the toilet roll angel.
Yes.
But then again, we see him in the next scene where he throws away a what's it called?
A board game.
A board game, yeah, where people at a Christmas party play this board game, and he
Yes.
just takes it and throws it into a fish tank.
He finds board games intolerable.
Yeah, so that's what he hates about
Yes.
Christmas. Zoe Ashton, we see her at a Christmas party with her family doing charades, and
Yes.
she's really funny and good at it.
Yes.
And so you can see
That's
everybody.
the best bit.
It's
That's the
really,
fun bit.
It's really sweet, that
Yeah.
scene. And you can see everybody enjoying themselves. And then you can see her on the roof with the so-called elf on the shelf
Yes.
figurine, which is a new invention from America that has sort of
I found it- yes.
invaded British households. And
I found it a weird choice because I don't think it's actually very well known in this country. I am happy to be
I'm
proven
sure.
wrong about that.
I'm sure most mums will know this
Okay.
horrible elf and will agree that it is a nuisance. And so what she does is take this elf on the shelf and baseball bats it into orbit. And the last one is Sophie Ellis Baxter, who is very stylishly in a very chic kitchen baking a gingerbread house.
She's perfectly made up as well.
Yeah, she does some sort of decorations with a blowtorch, basically, not a flamethrower. So she obviously enjoys doing the gingerbread house, but then her glance goes over to a big unwritten pile of Christmas cards that she then torches with a little blowtorch.
see.
Obviously it's a duty that she doesn't want to do.
Right. So on the whole, what it's showing is a contrast between, or at least the intention is to show a contrast between those parts of Christmas that you enjoy on a personal level and those bits that you find to be a chore or unnecessary or burdensome in some way.
Exactly.
The interesting thing about this advert is that it has upset absolutely everybody. The first controversy, which I think is a relatively easy one to just talk about and get over, is that one of the images in this advert was some Christmas hats thrown in a fire. And it was very unfortunate that the colours of these hats were red, white and green on a kind of black fireplace. And it looked very like the Palestinian flag.
Well, it didn't, but it was evocative because
Yes.
it's what we see in the news at the moment
Yes.
every day.
And
So
people were very quick to read it that way and say that it was offensive and insulting. So Marks and Spencer's cut that bit out and then issued an apology. That is not very interesting, I don't think. That's just
unfortunate
Yes.
timing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we really want to talk about, though, is the much more raging discussion around what this advert kind of stands for or symbolizes. There's definitely some kind of contestation of values happening around this. So I won't go into all of the details, but I will read you two quotes which I think exemplify the sides of this discussion. The first one is from Lord Frost, of all people. A Lord.
What does he have to say?
He says, "For the first time, I think..." I don't know what he sounds like.
It sounds good.
"It marks a symbolic distancing," it being the advert. "It marks a symbolic distancing, not just from the original Christian meaning of Christmas, that unfortunately went long ago, but also from its secularized successor, family, children, food, games, tree, elves, and so on. The ad now presents it as an entirely selfish event, about doing what you want with the holiday, defining it yourself, and not being made to do anything you don't wish to do. In that sense, it is entirely in line with trends in society more generally, including a devaluing of tradition and a distancing from the Christian roots of our society."
What he's talking about is that the advert is promoting a kind of contemporary sensibility that we can do away with Christmas traditions in favor of doing what you want to do.
The other side of the argument comes from The Drum, which is a magazine for advertisers, so they can talk about advertising. They love that shit. And their writer says, "From one delicious pork product to another, naturally, the gammons have become enraged by the sheer cheek of M&S turning its back on tradition and Christian values. Some comment that the brand has gone woke. Cue the usual chorus call of proclamations from utter flag shaggers to boycott and reminders that brands that go woke, go broke." So you can see that it's inspired some extreme reactions.
Yes.
What are we to make of it?
But so the the other reaction is that, if you're upset by this advert, you are sort of backwards. You don't understand that Christmas is a chore for many people except for women. You must be some sort of sexist, misogynist, backwards person who doesn't understand that people need to be free to celebrate Christmas the way they want and take on the duties that they want.
Yes, the insults there, gammons and flagshaggers, are they're new insults for the working class. They're kind of not class hate exactly. Well, maybe they are, but they're certainly very loaded and very poisonous class comments, I think.
Yes, it is a very new way of describing that if you do not agree with our way of analyzing the problem, you are a problem yourself.
You're beyond the pale.
You're beyond the pale.
So more generally, what do you think is the real content of this argument? Because it raged for a while and it's still trundling on. What are people upset about, do you think, really?
So the whole thing is not actually about Christmas. It's a greater divide of moral principles.
Interesting.
Between two groups of people.
Nice.
Let's say the kind of chattering classes
Yes.
and normal people.
Yes.
So with the help of this advert, maybe we can talk about a divergence between kind of moral philosophy of duty, maybe, because it's an advert about Christmas duties.
So you think it's about duty, and that's really the crux of the issue.
Well, let's talk about this advert,
Yes.
right? And how this symbolizes this kind of greater divergence within
Yes.
the culture.
Please.
So we have on the one hand what we would call a kind of Kantian ethics of duty.
All right.
Let's go there. Let's go there.
All right. Go big or go home. Go Kantian or go home.
But I was going to say it's very simple.
She says, drawing on Kant. Go on, explain the Kantian.
The idea is that you do things out of duty because you know that they are right? The idea is that you want everybody to be part of this moral correctness that is Christmas. If you think Christmas is good, then the duties connected to it are inherently good. So it's an ethics of duty that is compelled by you wanting to have the same for everybody. You want to have the same thing true for everybody.
Is it universalist in that regard?
It is definitely universalist in this regard. On the other hand, you have what is probably the most dominant moral ethics today, the utilitarianism, the moral philosophy that has won, I think. It's everywhere.
My understanding of utilitarianism, and you can tell me if I'm off the mark here, is that it's about minimizing harm typically. It's like the best possible outcomes for the most people, right?
Yeah, so it's all about outcome.
Yeah.
So the advertising agency for Marks and Spencer's definitely sees that's the best outcome for you as an individual, to be free to dismiss duties left, right, and centers, as long as the outcome is that you feel good and relaxed about this.
So you're minimizing the psychological harm on yourself.
Exactly. And probably others as well, because
Yes.
who wants a stressed mom at Christmas, right?
Right.
So the idea of minimizing harm is by minimizing stress and duties. And so you can see that that's the ethical position they're coming from. However, Christmas especially still has a big hold on people's imagination here.
Yes.
This is where utilitarianism doesn't quite get through in this day and age.
You think people still feel a sense of duty, inarticulate perhaps, or unexpressed?
Exactly.
That maybe Lord Frost was kind of referring to.
I think he was onto something there. I think the idea that we want Christmas to be a shared experience, and that requires some sort of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think religious symbolism plays very much into this.
I agree, yeah.
But it is about a shared experience that we want to have with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires for us to do stuff even though we don't like it.
Yes. But also the idea that you might take pleasure in doing something that you have to do because it's, as you said, there is the duties that are associated with a good task become good, right?
Because they're inherently good.
Yes.
According to a Kantian moral philosophy, they are inherently good, even though you don't like doing them.
So what people are objecting to in this advert, or what's kind of hit a nerve, is it's a beautiful expression of a utilitarian Christmas.
Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And if you agree with this kind of philosophical outlook, then
Yeah.
you don't see anything wrong with this. And if you don't agree with this, then, you can see a lot wrong with it. It really hits you, on your moral radar. And that's
Yes.
what has happened to many people.
I think that's a very nice way of putting it. And you can see, I think, in the performances themselves, to bring it back to
Yeah.
the performances, where that hit lands because of the things that are being performed and the way that they're being performed.
Yeah.
So the actors, what was your kind of reaction to what you're seeing? What do you see on screen?
So we talked about the four symbols of, the four actors, or
Yes.
the four representatives of aspirational Britishness and taste, who are approachable, friendly, identifiable, really somebody who you want to be friends with. But they are shown with these horrible facial expressions of disgust, eye-rolling,
Contempt, I think.
absolute contempt for the stuff that they don't like, really grimacing
Yeah.
faces when they do the stuff that they don't want to do, or when they burn the Christmas cards, or then they throw the board game in the water. And this kind of gives these symbols of what is nice about Christmas, this grotesque
Yeah.
look that is really, really off-putting. And suddenly you find yourself really alienated from these people who you should be friends with on screen, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that we should probably talk about, or at least think about for a moment, is the kind of horrific, more general context that this advert is taking place in. So it feels like the kind of clash of values that's happening on a small scale is symptomatic of a much bigger clash of values that's happening around the world. There is a horrific war happening right now that a lot of people are describing as a choice between civilization or barbarism. So it's a superheated social atmosphere, context. So it feels like this very banal advert has somehow become a lightning rod for tensions or emotions that are being felt elsewhere, perhaps.
I think it's more than that. I think it's a lightning rod for tensions that have been brewing for over 20, 30 years.
Okay.
The alienation from the kind of chattering classes, the neoliberal elite, whatever you want to call them, and their absolute moral relativism, and their utilitarianism, now is just far more meaningful. So what people still cling on to is the little bit of moral values that are generally accepted to be okay, and that is around Christmas. And if you take that away, suddenly, you will expose this kind of divide that has been happening for a long time. And bizarrely, it's a Christmas advert. It should be something nice and peaceful and happy, but it exposes this massive divide about how people really think about the moral relativism that they had to put up with for a long, long time.
Thanks for listening to Performance Anxiety. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a good review. 5 stars is always the best, of course. It helps us enormously. And spread the word. We'll be back very, very soon. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.